Desk on SiliconANGLE TV for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2012. I'm Kristen Folletti. The patent brawl between Samsung and Apple marches on. Apple begins mass production of a new tablet. The ComScore mobile report for August is out, and Microsoft testing their own Windows Phone hardware. That's all in today's Mobile Roundup, and here with breaking analysis on today's headlines is SiliconANGLE contributing editor John Casaretto. Welcome, John.
Good morning.
Yesterday, Samsung filed amendment documents requesting to add the iPhone 5 to its existing patent suit. We've talked previously about the Samsung-Apple patent disputes on NewsDesk. Can you summarize some of the charges for us?
Well, basically, they're adding to previous charges that they had regarding the iPhone 4, the 4S, the iPad, and they took a look at the technology in the iPhone 5 and decided, hey, this also violates some of our patents, and it's a little bit of tit for tat. So the amendment is basically that's the whole game is they're putting up a fight, and unfortunately that's part of the game nowadays, and it just seems like this copyright infringement and this patent infringement. And on and on and on is just part of what we're going to see for some time to come from Samsung and Apple, and it's a bitter fight on one front, but in the end, I think the consumer wins.
Just over a month ago, a U.S. jury found Samsung guilty of violating many of Apple's design patents. So does Samsung actually stand a chance of winning a case after getting their own guilty verdict?
Well, they have one in European court and elsewhere around the world. At any given time, I forget the statistics, but there's a number of court cases going on in a number of different courts throughout the world there. So they very well could win this one or elements within it. But again, it's part of this. We're not going down without a fight, and I doubt that we're going to see any end to this anytime soon. So they do stand a chance. What remains to be seen what happens with this particular case.
Samsung is being ordered to pay Apple slightly over $1 billion in damages. Do you think they're just trying to win back some of their losses?
Potentially. I mean, that may end up being the result. They may win back some of their losses, but I don't think that's the focus. Again, I think it's more about putting up a fight and saying, hey, we can play that game too. You want to give some of this money to the lawyers, and that's what it has to be. It's part of doing business, I think.
The Wall Street Journal reports that Apple's Asian component suppliers have started mass production of a new tablet computer smaller than the current iPad. So does this verify those leaked iPad mini photos that we saw earlier?
It certainly does look like it. And I think that with competition in the tablet space intensifying as it has with Google and Amazon, and I'm sure other players, Microsoft coming out with something sooner or later when they do announce their tablets, going for this segment of the market, which has been growing. Amazon capturing, I think the last statistic I saw was 22% of the overall tablet market. It's a field that Apple's looking at. And they're preparing to come out with a different, smaller, cheaper line of iPads that will suit that market as well.
Any ideas on what kind of specs this new device will offer?
There hasn't been a lot leaked other than screen size. At one time, it was talked that it might have been like a 7-inch or a 5-inch tablet, and now they're talking around 7 inches. Again, it's they're looking at basically coming in with that same form factor, coming in with that same range of specs that you see from the Amazon Kindle device and perhaps the Google device, and they're going to compete right there at that level.
With the screen size, I also heard a rumor about a lower resolution. Why would they go lower with the resolution?
That's a simple answer. It's cost. I mean, the price point between the iPad and the Kindle has really been that real differentiator that's made the Kindle what it is. The buy-in is at a different price point, and the cheaper they make it, the more hands they can get the device in.
Any idea when this smaller tablet may be available?
The reports are it's going to be out in October. It's going to be announced in October and in time for the holidays, which is perfect timing. So, Christmas coming up, shopping season, makes a great cheap gift, a great tablet. And if you're bought into the Apple ecosystem, a smaller, more portable tablet would definitely make sense for a lot of people.
Now, is that strange timing since Apple just released their iPhone 5?
No, no. I know that they wanted to keep the two. You would think they would want to keep the two kind of separate announcements, because they are two distinct products. And one is more focused on, well, one is definitely a phone, and it's part of that same iOS experience, but one is a completely new product, and I think that they kind of wanted that to stand alone.
What devices do you see a proposed iPad mini competing with?
Well, the Nexus 7 for sure, the new Kindle Fire HD, um, the previous Kindle, which is still out there. So, there's a big base of devices that it's shooting for, and it's definitely the competition is, it's big and the stakes are pretty high.
The Nexus 7 is at around $199 right now. Amazon's Kindle about $159. So, do you see Apple having a price point competitive with those two?
Yeah, they do have to stay competitive. Apple has the luxury of a very built-in base of people that are willing to pay a little bit more for, the Apple experience. So we'll see something in that range. It wouldn't surprise me if it was in the higher end of that range, but it'll be there. I mean, that's the competition. That's what they have laid out before them, and that's where they're going to be.
Yesterday, ComScore released their U.S. mobile market share data for August. Can you tell us what the report concluded?
Yeah, so Samsung still on top in hardware. That's no surprise. That's part of the reason why Apple's, taken Samsung to court, and Samsung's fighting back. So, they're still a huge supplier of hardware in that space. There's also the fact that Apple, HTC are two of the OEMs that are still seeing consistent growth. As far as the overall market, Android is over 50%. I think the number was 52.6. So no surprise there. Android dominating the market there on those points. Interesting that Windows, this does not reflect Windows 8 thus far, obviously, since it hasn't come out, but Windows has not gained anything. It's hovering at around 3.6%, and RIM is continuing their slide down at 8%, and who knows where they're at right now.
What trends do you anticipate we could see by the end of the year?
I think that with Microsoft coming out with the Windows 8 phones, I think that we'll see an uptick in that. Also, it seems that Android will continue to creep upwards. There's always incentives for people to buy into the Androids. They have a lot of compelling phones and platforms that run the Android OS. Samsung's got some great phones. HTC's got a number of great phones. Nokia with the Windows phones has got a very compelling physical device, and it remains to be seen what happens with Windows 8. But I think that you'll see a lot of interest in that, and part of that perhaps pent up from all this time anticipating when Windows 8 was going to hit.
Do you believe the release of Windows 8 will see a rise with Windows phones?
I do believe so, and I think that the primary market that will see the initial uptick, I think, will be in the consumer market. But it's not going to change the world, at least not at first. The adoption may not be all that. There's a real strong base, of course, as I mentioned, with Android and Apple. But we'll see a definite uptick. We'll see a definite trend of Windows 8 devices, and some of them are really cool. So.
RIM continues to be on the decline. So is this the death of BlackBerry?
Yeah, it certainly does seem like it. They're working on a next generation platform and definitely trying to evolve that. But I think as far as it just continues to erode, and there seems to be nothing that's able to stop what's going on with BlackBerry. So, it remains to be seen, how long they can exist before pieces start to sell off or they get acquired or they just close shop. It really does look like the death of BlackBerry is playing out in terms of this decline.
Finally, Microsoft is testing their own Windows Phone hardware. Why are they considering dropping their OEM partners?
Well, we don't really know that. The OEM partnership. I mean, I think about it. I mean, there's a number of possibilities why Microsoft is doing this. One is they could potentially be following that Google example when they released the first Android phone to say, this is how we do it. This is how our ideal Windows 8 phone looks like, comes together, functions. The other thing that could be happening is they may not want to actually deal with all of the intricacies that come with being bundled with one of the cell providers. Independently selling the phone by themselves. I mean, they could be looking at it. They are in the Surface, coming out with the Surface tablet and doing things on their own. It could be that they're testing and then they're really contemplating being a full-on phone tablet hardware company, but history doesn't really indicate that. So, it still remains to be seen. So we'll definitely see some more phones come out with Windows 8. We have the HTC devices. We have Nokia. And I think that the last that when we first saw those devices come out, one of them at least, it said that it was a premier platform for Windows 8. So this could be something for like a next generation, or again like a trendsetter, a marquee phone. So some of the terminology said high-end phone, and I think that's really what they're trying to do, is to say, here's the piece that we want. This is what you guys should shoot for.
Well, John, we appreciate your input. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
You can follow today's top stories and keep up to date with the latest in tech innovation by joining us daily at News Desk on SiliconANGLE TV.